Welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. Today we're going to talk a little bit about health and well-being and how some of your inputs might have an effect on that. So, now there's a couple things, caveats to this. I talk about well-being, and there's two sides to this. Like there's an inside and an outside, and most people are on the outside, and it's all very, complex and stuff. And I am officially enlightened with the quotation marks and the trademark and the seals and course completions and all the fun stuff. So it's real. It's a real thing, and there is a shift that happens, and you can be in and out of that. And once you've experienced it, going out of it is actually kind of a bummer. Bigger bummer than you knew it was before, and we're going to get to that a little bit. Like things being worse once you've escaped them and then go back to them, rather than them just being your field of existence. We're going to get to that with inputs in your life and your health in a minute. So, fundamental aspects of this well-being thing. There's the shift that happens where everything really is okay. When you look deep inside after everything that's going on, your house is on fire, your mortgage is foreclosed, you're having a divorce, and your kids hate you, and it's okay. It's okay. Like you're testy, and you have, you're a little more prone to jumping at people because the stress levels are high and everything. But if you stop, when you stop, remember to stop, take time for yourself, and you look in, you're like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay. The fundamental aspect of your life is not anxiety, it's okay. I talk about this as a shift from fight or flight to competence and abundance. And that's, I'm being a little bit less than purely scientific when I say that, but there is a neurological shift that happens where you go from that threat to a confidence kind of neurology. Your neurology changes, Humans are unique because we can do all these things. We can actually change our neurology, we can change our bodies in significant ways on purpose, completely naturally too, which is really important, and we'll get to that too. Yeah, we're going to get to that body thing. And we can, for example, we can create our own dominance hierarchies. Hierarchies are a big deal in how your brain chemistry works and stuff, but humans can create an infinite number of hierarchies, so everyone has the opportunity to actually be an okay, kind of cool person. And, we are infinitely unique as well. So, all this stuff goes into that well-being thing. Look, I have water. It's funny, once you get used to them a little bit, the Gerolsteiner and the Pellegrino and the Perrier, they all taste different. I wish we had better brand options that weren't all owned by Nestle, but that's the global corporatist world that we live in. So most people do not exist in that fundamental okay state. And so probably, because I am there and I'm in that community, probably a higher percentage of people that I talk to are in that state. And I don't know how to really work with that. Like, do I talk to you like you're not in that state? Do I assume everyone's in that state? There are freaking differences in how stuff works. So I just I run with it. I'm doing this intuitively. And if something doesn't match, ask me the question. Is this different on this side of the fence or that side of the fence? And, there are an infinite number of perceptions on each side of the fence because people are infinitely unique. Now that we've spent 5 minutes talking about that, let's talk about what kinds of things can influence your well-being. Because, you've got your psychology, you've got spirituality. Absolutely have spirituality. You've got your consciousness, you've got your mind, which is an emergent property of your brain, and you've got the brain, which is part of the body. So the brain and body, same word, but your body is actually an ecosystem, not a singular genetic thing. Okay, it's a very old 19th century view, and it's really outdated and really leaves some stuff away off to the side. Like there's a Some of you will get this joke. There's a layer 5 ecology to the human experience. So, one of the things that has a big effect on your well-being is, in fact, your body, brain, mind. And how much of an effect this is depends a lot on your situation and a lot on what's going on. So, for example, there are people who are in chronic pain who can use that chronic pain as a method to spur, deepen, sink in, increase their basic fundamental okayness, their well-being, okay, their enlightenment. And there are people for whom pain just pushes them right out, and they either drop completely out of it, or they drop to the point where it's in the background so far they can't reach it, which I think is what really happens, but there's different thoughts on that. So let's say you have fibromyalgia, IBS, lupus, and arthritis, and you're enlightened. You've got constant pain all the time. Oh my God, anyone else would be dead or insane, but you've got it, you're enlightened. You are okay. Great. Now, what happens if that baseline, because that's your baseline, what happens if that changes dramatically? Pain gets 10 times worse one day. It might push you out. It might push you to a point where you can no longer contact your okayness, okay? Temporarily or long-term, like semi-permanently. Or at the same time, what happens if that pain, that pain just all goes away? Well, then all of your enlightenment stuff suddenly has other stuff to work on, and that can be bad or good. It sounds like it's going to be fantastic. All the pain is gone. Wow. All that stuff that your enlightenment is dealing with now is free to deal with other stuff. But that's the problem, because you don't know what else to deal with. You don't know where to go from there. There are people who get anxiety out of their enlightenment because they don't have anything to work on, and they're addicted or attached, or the habits are too strong to have some drama, some anxiety, and once there's nothing to work on, they manufacture things. And that doesn't even have to pull you out of enlightenment when that happens. I hate to use Christians as an example, but they're very populist, they're a very good example. Certain Christians are very much in a state of enlightenment, but still have a lot of drama and fire and brimstone, and that can be perfectly fine, even though they are existing in the love of God. It's kind of a weird thing, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people who are not Christian and on the enlightenment train, because they have their version of enlightenment, and they don't like other people messing with that, So what does this have to do with diet and health? Should be obvious, right? If you massively change your diet, it can have a huge impact, for good or bad, on your basic well-being. The caution that I mentioned just a minute ago about what happens if all the pain goes away, this is a very real thing to consider. Make sure that you have an idea, a celebration, a set of goals, things that you would like to be able to do if things get better. Otherwise, you might be spinning in the wind, especially if you're not on the enlightenment side of the fence, where the dramas are still relatively important. You really might need to have something else to do, or you'll make yourself sick again. It's kind of like in positive thought circles, where you're doing the positive thinking release techniques to get stuff, to get goals in your life. You don't continue to envision a goal that already happened, because in order to get it again, you would have to lose it, right? So if you're like, man, I wish the pain would go away, I wish the pain would go away, I wish the pain would go away, and the pain goes away, you better have something to replace that with. Otherwise, you're going to be thinking about the pain, and then the pain's going to come back so that you can wish it would go away again. So if your health suddenly gets better, you have to have something to do. Marathons, deadlifts, stretching, yoga, dance, taking long walks, whatever it is. Taking long walks is the win. That's the best one. Biologically speaking, I really think it is. So have something to do if things get dramatically better, because I'm going to tell you some stories and things might get dramatically better for you. We're going to start with sausage. So, as should be obvious by now, I'm in the woo-woo land, so I don't eat a standard American diet, because no one does. That would actually be the biggest, way to set yourself up as unique and special and an outlier in the Enlightenment community would be to actually eat McDonald's. And can you imagine Shiva with a Happy Meal? I can. Alright, so my dietary preferences are not what I actually eat. I make amends for that. Like, I program myself to think of the things that I used to want to eat as poison and so on. I've gone so far as to just eat beef, water, salt, because it really gets rid of a lot of the inflammation. And that's great. I can go a little beyond that, and that's fine too. But I am in that weird space. But I don't think everyone has to be, and I'd like to talk about there's a secret, okay? And the secret starts with sausage. I cannot eat commercial sausage without negative effects. I'll get grumpy, I'll get tired. Sometimes I'll get like little itchies or breakouts or something. Like, there's definitely negative effects. Kind of this little catalog of them. Now, this applies to Johnsonville sausages that you get from Safeway or Fry's. It applies to Farmer John's skinless breakfast sausage. Well, it also applies to the fancy sausage with no additives and all natural and all organic, everything that you get at Whole Foods or at your local food co-op. In fact, I used to be a member, I'm still a member, but I used to be shopping at a food co-op that had their own meat shop, like full butcher shop. So they would make their own sausage. I knew what the ingredients were. I even did I did some volunteer work in that department. So, the same ingredients. I could take these same ingredients, basically parsley, rosemary, salt, garlic, and pork. And I could make the same sausage at home, and I would have no negative effects. But even the co-op sausage, even the stuff there in the store would have some negative effect. Now, I didn't realize this at first, okay? It was completely accidental. I was, I was tracking. Like, I knew that the commercial sausages were like a no-go and everything. We got a deal on some pork, made a bunch of breakfast sausage at home, and it was different. It was almost, not quite, but it was almost the same thing as when I would eat steak, little bits of steak. Like, we used to just eat like 6 ounces of steak with some homemade hot sauce, and that would be, boom, like an energy. That was literally like having a double espresso before I went to work outside or something. Super energy boost. And so I wasn't getting that, but I was feeling good and energetic after eating the sausage. Okay. So we did that. We had more of the co-op sausage, and it just wasn't feeling the same. That's when I started really looking at it. That's when I'm like, hey, this isn't Johnsonville sausage. Hey, this isn't Farmer John's. This isn't commercial. This is the stuff from the co-op. So we checked the ingredients, and I started actually paying attention. So this didn't come from a preconceived notion. That's the big deal here, is that you can make the answers happen if you want them to happen, especially when you're dealing with personal anecdote diet stuff. But this wasn't where I was going. It was just suddenly I realized. And it was something about making it at home changed what was going on and how it affected me. We're going to get back to that in a moment, and we're going to talk about that some more. So obviously the ingredients of the sausage are not pure carnivore, and it's not beef to begin with, so there's obviously we're expanding our horizons just a little bit here, just a little bit. Well, cake is the next topic, all right? Cake. I used to date a girl named Sierra, and she was a wonderful, fantastic girlfriend. Many years of relationship, everything was great. We were very much on that keto wagon together. I did a weight loss challenge with a knife making group, and it was all cool, and I won. I didn't get the winning stuff because I did too well. Like, it got a little weird. I had too much good positive results, and that actually was a problem. But it was absolutely fantastic. Well, we went to this stage where we would first, there was sweat before you eat. Now, if you have heart rate recovery issues or some other reason where you can't go that far, take this and modify it to suit yourself. But one of the biggest ways to get healthy fast is to make yourself sweat, move around, do something. But if you can, make it hard, right? If you can't, you can't. But if you can, make it hard. Make yourself sweat before you put anything in your face that is not water. So water is the only thing that goes in your face, where you don't have to do push-ups, kettlebell swings, squats, jumping jacks, burpees, something. All right, and it has to be hard. It has to elevate your heart rate. It has to be like, ugh. Now again, if you have heart rate issues, just do something that makes it an effort, like walk around the block before you put anything in your face. And so I used to actually at one point in all of this, I would go to bars and I would do push-ups in the parking lot. You know, there was one phase in here where things, non-grain clear liquors, so potato vodka or tequila were actually allowed. So I could have a tequila shot or tequila on the rocks, but I had to go sweat before I had one. So if I was having a second drink, back out to the parking lot, just in the dirt, doing push-ups and stuff. So, you know, that's the rule. Anything but water, you sweat. So we were on that phase of things, and basically all we ate was either the steak with the homemade tiger sauce or chicken wings, like grilled wings. Sometimes I would smoke like a pork shoulder or something, and salad. Now, salad was not a lot of salad. It was very, we were trying to maintain the primal keto aspect, so we were actually following the Atkins plan as far as carb counts. The original no net carbs Atkins plan. So there would be a quarter cup or a half cup of salad, I think, and then we would pre-make all of the things to go on top, like natural salami, pre-cooked steak, and ham and stuff, and hard-boiled eggs, lots of hard-boiled eggs everywhere, and some cheeses. And because in Atkins you're allowed to have up to an ounce of cheese with a meal, you know, we'd have little pre-portioned servings. And we'd take 6 things, no more than 1 cheese, and just dump it on your salad with some olive oil and eat it. Obviously not carnivore, but very, very primal, paleo, keto, mostly raw. You know, everything but the meat, and some of the meat was raw. So very healthy, worked really, really well. And that was doing fantastic. And then one of my birthdays, we had a cake. This was in the era of cakerex.com, when it was very popular, and everyone was sending pictures of the worst cakes at every Safeway or Albertsons or Fry's or whatever in the universe, Piggly Wiggly. And so we found a small cake. It was only this big, right? Little cake, right? Little 6-inch cake, 2 layers. And it was a total cake wreck. It was a horrible wreck. Well, that was my birthday present, was actually Cakerex and getting on the Cakerex page, right? Happy birthday to so-and-so, here's the Cakerex. And I made it on the page, and it was all very cool and very fun. But we each had a slice. Sierra and I had a slice of this cake, and we had a fight. Oh my God, did we have a fight? We had a horrible argument. Like, not literally a fist knockdown, drag out, but it was a metaphorical knockdown, drag out fight. We had a fight. Argument. It was about 20 different things all at once. Well, we kind of laughed at it a couple days later. We're like, wow, I wonder if it was the cake. And then we did it again. We're like, yeah. So we had cupcakes at a friend's house for a party, someone else's party. And it happened again. And from that point on, we used to have a joke about whether or not something was worth a fight. And people would get in on the joke. Eventually we'd tell the story to local people, and people would get it. Go to Whole Earth Festival, go to a barbecue, go to whatever. And, we never would eat the sweets or the breads. Never, never, never. And, but we'd pass by sometimes, and every once in a while we'd look at someone's cake and we'd be like, man, that looks really good. That looks like it's almost worth a fight. And we would laugh about that. Is it worth a fight? This is important. Pay attention. Back to the sausage, all right? So I have a friend who ate some bread recently. He's on the primal paleo, keto, low carb path. He's tracking his blood sugar. He's kicking his pre-diabetes in the butt. His A1C is back down to 5.2. Everything's going great. Well, he tried an experiment because he's also into the Whole Foods movement. And he tried this thing. So he took some berries, wheat berries, wheat kernel, like the actual wheat itself. He got it from a good source, so it's an heirloom source and it's fresh. It's not stuff that's been sitting in the silo for 2 years or even 9 months. Fresh wheat berries, you can get them at special stores or even on Amazon for $50. There's a couple suppliers. It's all organic. It's all heirloom wheat. It's heirloom wheat, so it's actually real wheat, not the modern stuff that is 90% bigger endosperm, right? So it's real wheat. And he gets some of this stuff and he hand grinds, takes a couple of handfuls of stuff and runs it through a mill and makes flour. And then he makes a little starter culture, just bread star yeast, nothing special, and he makes bread. Now he makes classic bread, so that's 4 ingredients. That's flour, water, salt, and yeast. That's what bread is. No eggs or sugar or anything. You don't have to put that in to make that bread. That's how you make cakes and all sorts of things. It's not how you make bread, all right? Maybe butter on top as it finishes baking if you're doing that, or lard or tallow or something. There's different things. You can grease the pan if you want to do that with tallow. But the bread is bread. So his blood sugar goes up by 5 points. Like he eats this bread with a bunch of butter, and his blood sugar goes up 5 points. Like he just ate a steak. Like his body knows it ate, so his blood sugar goes up just a little bit. It's just part of the digestion process or something. But it doesn't go up to like 185 or anything. No. He's sitting there. He goes from like 93 to 98. No big deal. Okay. So he goes to the store and he gets some bread. French bread, 4 ingredients, flour, water, salt, and yeast. And he does the same thing. 145. His blood sugar goes up, right? So he's like, here is an effect that he didn't expect, okay? He was like, yeah, my blood sugar's not going to go up as much. It's going to be healthier. It's going to be a slower glycemic response because it's like fresher food and stuff. What happens is he never has that glycemic spike. He never has that insulin spike. He never has a sugar spike. It doesn't happen. Completely doesn't happen. Okay? Same thing with porridge, cream of wheat. You've got people out there who are taking this stuff and they're grinding and making their own porridge. And it turns out that this is not shitty food for the poor. Like the cream of wheat that you get in a box, this stuff is actually delicious, right? And good, and it doesn't affect their blood sugar. And it doesn't slam them in the face with the, there's a lot of stuff that you get once you go low carb that you realize when you eat carbs. There's the fuzzy headedness, there's the food coma, there's the irritability, there's just all this stuff. There's the swing where you get hungry again an hour later. None of this stuff seems to happen. Sausage, bread, porridge. So you start looking around and it turns out that this kind of thing happens with a lot of stuff. It actually happens with fruit, okay? So I've tried this. If you pick fruit off of a tree, like I can go pick a pomelo off of a tree down the street, right? I can eat half of that thing. These things, pomelos are like grapefruits, but they're this big and they're pretty sweet. The sugar content is high. I can eat half of one of those if it's off of a tree and I just literally stole it off of a tree, and it affects me less than eating one tangerine out of the grocery store. I've checked this. So what's up with that? This is where we need to start getting into some woo-woo land, but it's probably not woo-woo land. There are effects to processing food. We know this. For example, factory ground beef. If you grind the beef at home, it is going to have a lower histamine load than if it's ground at a factory. That's just oxygenation of the meat, oxidizing of the meat, whatever. It breaks down, histamine levels go up, you have bigger, stronger allergic reactions or histamine reactions, same thing, to ground beef if it's old. If you grind it at home, it's kind of like making your own sausage. Grind the sausage meat at home, totally different thing. So, where does this leave you? Well, it leaves you wondering, am I crazy? Well, try it. Do your best to try it. One of the biggest things about the carnivore diet, the carnivore reboot, or the carnivore experiment, if you only do it for the first 60 days, you really need 90 days, is that you're not eating anything that is processed. Maybe the ground beef. But generally speaking, you can get the beef cheaper and grind it at home. You can usually get tri-tip cheaper than ground beef, or chuck steak, chuck roast, cheaper than ground beef, and then grind it at home. Like right now, there's a place with chuck on sale for like $2.79 a pound, and the cheapest ground beef is on sale for $3.49. So just grind it, right? Grinders are easy. It's not that big a deal. If you can't, then just eat the chuck roast, cook it, and eat it, right? So that's the simple side, because there's nothing to process if you're just eating beef. Natural whole chickens, although chicken has its own problems. I tend to stay away from pork nowadays because it's just corn in a bag. Like it's force-fed and force-grown. Beef tends to be much better. Lamb usually is pretty good too. Goat, if you can find it, is usually raised pretty well as well. They're insane foragers. It's almost impossible for them not to be forage-fed, at least to some degree. So that's the simplest way to make sure that your food is fresh. But there's other things you can do. You can do it with salad. Steak and salad is fine. Steak and salad is great. Go through the olive oils and see which one works and which one doesn't. Olive oil is one of those things that's relatively stable and tends to work out okay. You can make mayonnaise if you can find good eggs. If you can find good eggs, that's debatable. I'm at the point where if I pay attention, I notice the differences. Like if it's not farm duck eggs or something, I'm skipping it. So that's life. Try this simple thing. Try to make it as simple as possible and see what happens. See what the differences are. The closer you get to source of food, the less side effects, the less histamine, the less inflammation, the less negative effects you're going to have. Now, all of this translates to your well-being, your psychological, neurological, and basically consciousness level well-being. Because your body's going to feel better. Your body's going to have less inflammation. I have another friend who was writing a novel. He's established, so this isn't like some nobody. And he could not get a book done for a couple months. He was just like this block. He went and had a root canal. There's this low-grade pain that he almost didn't even know was there. All right, he had a root canal done, and poof, got the book done really quick. Because this low-grade inflammation that was just hammering his psyche was gone. And that's neurological, it's psychological, it's biological, it's everything in your body system. And it is mental, because your mind is emergent from the body system. So if you lower the inflammation, if you lower the hormone response spikes, that's insulin, ghrelin, cortisol, everything, if you lower the spiking of the hormones, you're going to have a better time. Your psychology, your neurology, the basic core functioning of the neurons is going to get better. The core functioning of your body is going to get better. Remember that a good half of your neurons are below where my hands are right now, in your guts. So when we talk about the brain or neurology, remember we're talking about all of it, not just what's up here in the brain. And the blood-brain barrier is more of a myth than it is a fact, just as far as that goes too. So Your psychology is going to get better because the rest of your body is working better. And that means your mind is going to get more calm and more easily adaptable to situations, okay? Everything's going to get better. There is some growing body of evidence that certain inflammatory things, diet stuff, toxins in your environment, mold, dirty air, no fresh air, no open windows, no sunlight, that all of this stuff can actually increase anxiety and things on a neurological, very physical, biological level. So that is there as well. What you're doing is you're decreasing all of that by making your food as natural as possible. Try it for a while. See what happens. I pretty much guarantee you that this is going to have a big, significant effect. Now, I know it's gone for a long time, but we're almost done. You're a junk food addict. I'm a junk food addict. We're Americans. Junk food. Yeah, don't do it. That's all I can say is, yeah, don't do it. If you need it, make it. Okay? Make it yourself. Get a really good source of gelatin, like some fancy, organic, the farmer kind of thing. Go to uswellnessmeats.com or whatever. Get a good source of gelatin and make some Jell-O. Add your own flavorings. Make your own vanilla extract. Do whatever you need to for the filling or for the flavoring. Make some prickly pear juice. I've got friends. It's the season for picking it. I know a lot of people who are just making prickly pear juice right now. Condense it a little bit, freeze it down, mix it with gelatin, make it into Jell-O. Whatever you have to do. The ideal situation is to have less sugar, not more, but whatever you need to do, make it as natural as possible. Make it something you don't buy the prickly pear juice from the store. Okay? You have Craigslist, you have Facebook, you have friends, you have an entire desert around you, if this is where you live. Go make prickly pear juice. So you're in Oregon, okay? Get some of the wild berries that are in Oregon. Put them in Jell-O. Make your own stuff. Can you get raw milk from a friend? Can you sneak your way into some raw milk? Make some ice cream. Whatever it is you need to do for junk food, make it as close to natural as possible. And yeah, that means you're going to miss a lot of other stuff. If you're worried about your weight, make all of your junk food into homemade jerky. Just make it all homemade jerky and don't worry about it. Just go high fat. It's not gonna last long enough for the fat to go rancid. High fat jerky. Just make it at home. Okay, make it in your air fryer. Most of them have a dehydrator, so get a dehydrator. I don't care. Just make it. That's the junk food answer. Is make it. I've got a friend who makes candy bars like Snickers and Twix and stuff. She recreates the recipes at home out of her own ingredients, and she won't buy marshmallow fluff. If she's going to make the nougat for the Snickers, she makes the marshmallow fluff at home out of raw ingredients. The only thing she actually buys is chocolate, pre-done chocolate, Trader Joe's big 2-pound chocolate bars. So she could improve on that, I guess, but everything else she makes, it all starts as raw ingredients. So, of course, marshmallow fluff isn't particularly good. It's going to be corn syrup, which is processed. So, a little bit of wiggle room there, but it's still better than going to a store and getting the Snickers. If you need junk food, make it, or make it not junk food, okay? I hate to say sugar-free Jell-O, but because I don't like the artificial sweeteners, but it is one answer that if it works for you, big if, different people, different bodies, different adaptabilities. If it works for you, go for it. Eat that stuff up. Make it by the gallon, right? Freeze it. Jell-O pops are actually kind of cool. Put it in the fridge, whatever you need to do. Just don't eat regular junk food. And that's about really all I can really say about that, is that if you're going to do it, you got to do it homemade. The best answer, of course, is to minimize the junk food and get yourself out of that mentality and break the space and do everything differently. But there are options. There are ways to do it better. Okay, there always are. I can go find tortilla chips that are local, that are made from handmade tortillas, from hand ground corn, fried in lard, making the tortilla chips. There's a couple places here where you can go get that. If I have to have tortilla chips, that's probably the way to go. Or make it yourself. You can get the corn to make the cornmeal out of. You're in America. You can find real cornmeal for tortillas. Just trust me on that one. So anything that you have to do to make the junk food as close to source as possible. This is the key for all of your food. We don't want to eat junk food, but for all of your food is as close to the source as possible. Yes, I am firmly convinced that humans derive most of their nutrition and benefit from animal sources. How much nutrition you actually need kind of varies depending on who you are, what your activity levels are, your time of life. So maybe you can get by on a vegetarian diet or a mostly vegetarian diet or whatever. Maybe the plant toxins aren't trying to kill you as much as they're trying to kill me. Everyone's different. But regardless of which way you go, as close to source as possible. Do not buy anything that has ingredients. Okay? You don't want ingredients. So that's about all I got. That took 40 minutes to do, 40 minutes to tell you, but we told some stories and I got you through the basic idea. The difference between grinding your own grain and making your own bread and buying even artisan bread is so big, so dramatic, and that's key. Okay? That is what you need to know, and that's what you need to take home, move forward with, and that will help your well-being, whether you're on the enlightenment side or not. That will help your well-being immensely. Quality of input, and all the self-help guys say this. I do this when I'm coaching. I'm going to tell you, quality of input matters more than quantity of input. Absolutely important for your food. It is so amazingly, incredibly important for your food. Once you get out of the habit of overeating because of low quality, it's amazing how much better some of the stuff tastes, how much better it is to have 2 ounces of a really good grilled sauteed mushroom over 6 ounces of pasta, 10 ounces of pasta with mushroom sauce. Quality of input matters more than you can imagine. So take that and put it in your stomach. All right, stay sideways.